Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where's the best place to learn about Canadian finance. Now for this year, because of the pandemic, I've been having a lot more conversation about estate planning with new clients. Some people are really affected by the negative news and they're really worried about if I ever get sick or pass away, what will happen to my estate, and do I have a good enough plan to take care of my family and also a smooth transition so I can pass my estate on to them. So from these conversations, I realized a lot of people actually don't have the full picture of what estate planning is, and some even have no idea what happens after someone passes away. And from my experience, estate planning is probably one of the most complicated topics you can talk about, and if you don't have a good enough plan, the process of selling your estate could be one of the most daunting and exhausting tasks for your family. So for this week, I want to talk about the basics of estate planning, what are some things you need to watch out for, and how you can have a head start and better prepare yourself to set up a solid estate planning. So without further ado, let's jump into today's video. Now before I start, make sure you like this video for me so it can be pushed out to more Canadians who have a need for estate planning. Alright, so first let's explore what happens when someone passes away. Now, when someone passes away, especially if that person is the last surviving spouse, the family member will need to go through something called probate, which basically means it's the process of verifying someone's will to see if it's valid and the administering of the will and the estate. Now, usually this is all done by an executor, which is someone that the deceased have named in their will prior to passing away. Even though the explanation of probate is very simple and straightforward, what an executor actually have to do when they try to settle the estate can be extremely complicated. As an example, here you will see a checklist posted by BMO on things you might have to do to settle an estate. These are things like clear the debt, file taxes, distribute asset, etc. Now on this checklist, there are 49 different things you may or may not have to do. So as you can see, for executors that have little to no experience to do all these things, it's no wonder why a probate process usually takes 12 to 18 months in Canada. However, that's only assuming if everything goes smoothly and there are no complaints, no lawsuits, no complications. If there are, it can easily take anywhere from 3 to 4 years or more. I've seen a couple cases where people are spending 5 to 6 years just to settle an estate because there are lawsuits going back and forth between family members. Now inside the checklist, there are two main big ones that most people would have to go through. Number one is to handle the probate fee, and number two is pay off all the tax of the deceased person. So basically when someone passes away, the executor and family will also have to file the final year of tax filing for that person. Basically in CRA's eyes, they see it as this person have sold everything they own in that final year. Now if you have a spouse, there are a lot of things that can roll over, but if you're single or you're the last surviving spouse, then basically everything you own will have considered to be sold at that year at fair market value. So what that means is if it's RSP, then we'll all count as withdrawal and they will all become that person's income for that year. In addition, investment property will have deemed to be sold at that year, and so you probably have capital gain taxes. So all these could lead to a massive amount of tax liability that your family will have to handle in order to receive the full amount of your estate. Now on top of the taxes, there's another fee you will have to pay. It's called the probate fee. For this, basically what it means is your estate is going through a third party, it's going through court and all that stuff to get it done. During that process, the government wants some administrative costs back. Now, probate fee have a different schedule for different provinces as you see on the screen right here. But take BC for example, basically you can assume it's about 1.4% of your total assets. So 1.4% doesn't sound a lot, but nowadays with most people owning one or more real estate, what that means is your total asset could easily be worth into the millions when you pass away. These could add up to be a hefty amount of fees. So what we really want to do is be prepared so when we pass away, the process of selling our estate can be as inexpensive and easy as possible for our family so we can reduce their stress and they can focus on grieving. So next I'll be showing you a couple tools you must consider to make a smoother transition should you pass away. Now to preface, different provinces have different set of rules. So if you want to find out about something, make sure you check your province's specific rules before you do anything. And also, like I said, estate planning is one of the most complicated topics there is to talk about. Any of these tools I'm about to tell you could easily be its own 1 or 2 video worth of content. So this is meant to give you the correct first step direction and not a super detailed guide on everything you need to know. To explain more, maybe I'll talk about each tool in detail in future videos. Alright, so the first thing you need to consider are your passwords. Nowadays, with everything being online and we have easily over 10 or 20 different online accounts for different things, this could be one of the most annoying area if your family is trying to get access to your online accounts. So here what I'll recommend is keep a good record of all your passwords. You can either print it out or keep it in an Excel file or use some of the third-party program and apps out there, like 1Password for example. So if I ever pass away, my wife would know the 1Password to this app, which will unlock the app and show all other passwords there is for her to use. And also make sure you keep all your insurance and investment and tax documents in one safe place and give a clear instruction for your executor. So if something is to happen to you, they know exactly where to find it. Now, as an example, I'll show you something I prepare for myself and my clients. So usually for all my clients, I prepare something called a financial box for them. And this is basically a filing box where I've labeled every single tab in there so they can put all the financial documents in this box and keep it in somewhere safe. Now, if you're my client this year and you haven't got a box from me, don't worry, I have it for you. It's just right now because of COVID, we can't see face to face. But after that, I'll make sure to deliver them to you. So next, what you must consider is your will. Now, a will is basically a document with a set of instructions for your family to follow and on how to distribute your assets. One thing to make sure you do is in your will, whatever instruction you have in there needs to be extremely clear and straightforward. If you're going to leave anything specific, you need to list exactly what you're giving them. Usually, if the instruction is very vague, then an executor or family may not have to follow them exactly, or there will be a lot of dispute. So make sure every instruction is very straightforward and clear-cut. And also, make sure in your will, you name your executor. Now, for executor, usually it's going to be our spouse or our sibling, just someone we're very close to. But I highly recommend to name an alternative in there, just in case something happened to your first choice, or your first choice think they're not up to the task, then you have an immediate alternative that can step in and be an executor. Also in there should be some instructions for funerals if you have something specific in mind. And also make sure you pick a guardian for any minors or disabled family members that you want to take care of. Now, when it comes to tips, there are some things you need to keep in mind. Number one, not everything needs to go through probate. There are some things that can bypass probate. For example, private shares to a company or art collections. But if you only have one will and there are things in that will that needs to go through probate, everything will need to go through probate and you might have to pay a much higher probate fee because you only have one will. So a common strategy that you can think about employing is in some provinces, you can do something called a multiple will strategy, where one will is going to be for everything that needs to be probated and another will be for other things that don't need to go through probate. Now to do this, each will requires a separate executor. And also, make sure the wordings and the date in each will is carefully written out so they don't cancel or supersede each other. Also, as another tip, don't assume your spouse is going to get everything automatically when you pass away, and so you don't have to put any instruction into the will. There are some cases where it's taken to court and at the end, the kids are entitled a majority of the portions because of a number of reasons. And if these kids are minors, then the amount might have to be kept inside a trust and with a trustee. This makes things a lot more difficult for your spouse to get money out, maybe just to pay bills. Also, don't assume you can just completely leave someone out of your will just because you say so. In some provinces, some relationships may have the right to entitle to payments even if you specifically leave that person out, and they can sue for an amount. So this is why I highly recommend when you're setting up your will, run through this with an estate professional, so when you pass away, there are much less chance for an argument or disputes. Now, another note is that an executor is no easy task, and if they have not done a good job, they could risk getting sued by other family members. For example, if they don't handle the funds well and they depleted the fund before they can hand out to their family, or the distribution is not done correctly or efficiently or fairly, they will run into a risk of getting sued. So when you pick an executor, make sure you pick someone who's ready for the task and who are responsible to follow all your instructions efficiently. And if you're an executor right now and you feel like you're really not up to the task, you can also consider hiring a professional executor, which you do have to pay a fee, but it could make your life a lot easier. Now, as a final note on will, even though it's very important and that's something you really should have in your estate planning, know that it's not a magical tool that can solve everything. It does have its weaknesses as well. One of the biggest weaknesses for will is once it passes through probate, it becomes public information. So in your will, if you're going to leave some unpleasant comments or remarks for someone in your family or your friends, make sure you think twice because all these will become public for everyone to read. Now moving on, let's talk about the third tool that you have to consider, and it's power of attorney. But before we move on, a quick reminder, if you haven't already, join my private Facebook group where you can ask questions and get more content. I share fairly often on there, so make sure you click the link below and request to join. Now, power of attorney is for before you pass away. Because when it comes to estate planning, it's not just about after you pass away. Should you become incapacitated due to sickness or injury and you can't make decisions on your own anymore, you can name someone you trust to act as you and make decisions for you. Without a proper setup of a power of attorney, your family may have to go to court just to be able to pay bills for you. So this is why when it comes to estate planning, this is definitely something you want to think about. Now in general, there are 3 different types of power of attorney you can have. The first one is non-continuing power of attorney for property. Now this is only useful for specific periods of time and is more for if you're out of countries and you don't have access at the moment. It will be automatically revoked should you become incapacitated and can't make decisions. Now, if you want someone to step in, should you become sick or injured and can't make decisions, then you need the second type of POA, which is continuing POA for properties. With this POA, the person now can act as you should you become incapacitated, and they can do things like paying for your bills, managing your investment portfolios, applying for benefits for disability, collect pensions, and making sure your assets are protected. Now for this POA, you can make it as specific as you want. You can limit what they can do and what they can't do, but just be careful. If you limit them too much, then they might have trouble making the basic financial decisions that you want them to make for you. And lastly is POA for personal care. This is a POA that allows the person to make choices for you when it comes to healthcare should you become incapacitated. Now for this, I highly recommend choose someone that deeply cares for you and want the best for you and understand what you would want should you become unable to make decisions. And this person can be the same or a different person for a POA for property. So make sure you have a detailed discussion with the person you're about to name as POA to make sure they're up to the task. Now as a side note, a lot of people always ask, does my POA have to be notarized or not? Legally speaking, the only requirement for a POA is 2 different witnesses, and neither of these witnesses can be the person you're naming as POA. Now for Manitoba, I believe the requirement is much more stricter, as you probably see right now on the screen. But even though that's the requirement, some places like banks or government institutions will have their own set of rules, and they may require your POA to be notarized before they accept them. So in my personal opinion, if you're going to do it anyway, you might as well get it notarized just to make it official, make it formal, and there will be no dispute when you really need to use it. Now, once your POA is set up, you should put it in a safe place and also consider sending a copy to your financial institutions. So if something does happen and you need to use the POA, they will have a copy already and be much faster and ready to go. Alright, so the 4th things you should consider are naming your beneficiaries. Now, before we talked about probate fee and we were saying how it can get into a very large amount, the best way to bypass a probate fee are to name beneficiaries. Any asset with a beneficiary can bypass probate right away and be passed on to your beneficiaries. Now, as a side note, make sure the beneficiary you name is actually someone and not your estate. If you name your estate as a beneficiary, it will still have to go through probate. Now for RSP and TFSA, you can name a beneficiary already no matter where you open the account. And for non-registered investments, the only place you can name a beneficiary is if you open investment accounts with insurance companies. So if you have a huge non-registered portfolio and you worry about the probate fees, then this is something you may want to consider. Now, speaking of insurance companies, this brings me to the next thing you should consider, which are insurances. Like I said, for most people with real estate or large investment accounts, when you pass away and if it's not rolled over to a spouse, then your family will potentially have to pay a lot of capital gain for you. Often if the amount is very big and your family don't have access to your estate, then this can be very difficult to pay off, and if they delay, CRA will start accumulating daily interest on the amount owed. And this can create a lot of stress for your family while they're grieving as well. And this is where insurance can be a very good tool, because insurance has beneficiary, so when you pass away, insurance money will get paid out right away, and they can use that amount to cover all the liabilities first and receive the estate much faster. So whether you like insurance or not, make sure you at least have one conversation to understand your options and potential risk by not having any insurance. Alright, so finally, the last thing you should consider are trusts. Now for trust, it can get very complicated, so I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video. But essentially, this can be a very effective planning tool if you have corporations or sizable investment or real estate portfolios. Now, as you can see, there are all these different trusts that you can potentially set up, and each will have its pros and cons, and they can provide a greater degree of control than a will, and potentially some tax savings advantages. And it's also very useful if you have a corporation and you want to do something called estate freeze, which is basically selling your common shares to a family member in exchange for preferred shares. So you can set up a retirement income stream for yourself while your younger family members continue to expand the business. Now, obviously, trusts are not for everyone. The setup costs and the maintenance costs can get very high. So it's really for specific families with a certain asset amount. But if you're unsure, you should definitely ask about this and see if you're suitable to have a trust set up for yourself and your family. Alright, so these are all the things you should have a conversation with a professional when you're setting up your estate planning. Once you have gone through all these topics, you're in a much better spot for a more solid plan and a smoother transition to your next generation should something happen to you. Now, if you have any questions or any specific tools or topics or concepts we discuss here that you want me to talk more about, let me know in the comments below. And also, if you like these videos, I do upload them 8:30 EST every Tuesday. So make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell buttons for all the notifications in the future. Alright, this is Jacky. I hope you found this interesting. I'll see you next week. Bye!